Part 1, The Background, the Washington Quarter Legacy. Before we dive into what makes the 1992 D quarter so special, let's take a quick look at the series it belongs to. The Washington Quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington. It replaced the standing Liberty Quarter and became a staple in U.S. coinage. From 1932 to 1998, the design remained mostly unchanged, featuring Washington's bust on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse. The 1992 D quarter, minted in Denver, looks just like any other modern Washington quarter. But appearances can be deceiving, because within that same year, something rare and valuable happened. Gemstone Part 2, The Rarity, what makes the 1992 D quarter valuable. While millions of 1992 D quarters were produced, over 389 million to be exact, what makes some of them ultra-rare is the presence of an error called the close AM reverse, which is not supposed to appear on any regular circulation 1992 D quarter. Let me explain. Magnifying glass tilted left, the close AM error. In 1992, the U.S. Mint used two different reverse designs for the Lincoln cent, penny. Wide AM, normal spacing between the letters A and M in America. Close AM, a much narrower spacing. But somehow, dies intended for proof coins or alternate denominations were accidentally used to strike business strike coins, including quarters. These die mix-ups, known as mule errors, are incredibly rare, and can increase a coin's value from 25 cents to $25,000 or more instantly. Collectors have been hunting for these oddities for years, and only a handful of 1992 D quarters have been found with proof-style features or abnormal reverse types, making them ultra-rare modern treasures. High Voltage Part 3, Other Valuable 1992 D quarter Errors. Beyond the close AM variety, there are other rare mint errors that can make your 1992 D quarter explode in value. Fire 1. Off-center strikes. These occur when the coin isn't perfectly aligned during striking, creating a cut-off effect where parts of the design are missing. The more off-center it is, without losing the date, the more valuable it becomes. Some have sold for $1,000 to $5,000. Fire 2. Double die obverse, DDO. Coins with doubled features on Washington's face, the date, or the word Liberty are prized by collectors. These are known as double die errors, and one strong 1992 DDO quarter sold for over $7,000. Fire 3. Wrong planchet strikes. This error occurs when a coin is struck on a blank intended for a different denomination, such as a nickel or foreign coin. 1992 D quarter struck on a nickel planchet fetched over $15,000 in auction. Fire 4. Clipped planchets. Part of the coin appears bitten off. These unusual errors can sell from $500 to $2,500, depending on how dramatic the clip is. Part 4, Market Value, what collectors are paying. Let's look at real-world auction values for these rare 1992 D quarters. Type of coin / error grade / condition auction price close AM mule error mint state, MS, 65, $25,000 to $35,000 off-center strike XF, AU $1,000 to $5,000 DDO, double die, MS, 64 $7,200 struck on wrong planchet MS $15,500 clipped planchet VF, AU $500 to $2,000 regular 1992 D, MS, 67, top pop $300 to $600. And remember, certified coins, especially by PCGS or NGC, bring the highest premiums. One viewer might find a raw error coin and, after grading, see its value multiplied 10x or more. Magnifying glass tilted left. Classical Building Part 6, the 1992 D quarter in U.S. coin history. The 1992 D Washington quarter represents a transition point in U.S. minting. The era before the state quarters program, which launched in 1999, was seen as routine and unremarkable, until collectors discovered these error coins and variety anomalies. These discoveries remind us that even modern coins, the ones in our pockets right now, can contain unbelievable value, if we just know what to look for. In fact, some collectors believe undiscovered mule errors or double dies from 1992 are still out there, just waiting to be found. Part 1, the 1941 Wheat Penny, a piece of wartime history. The 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny isn't just another copper coin, it's a piece of pre-World War II America. Minted just months before the United States entered World War II, this coin marked the end of peacetime production and the beginning of one of the most intense periods in U.S. history. It features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor D. Brenner. 2 wheat ears and the words, 1 cent, and United States of America, on the reverse. 3 mints struck the coin in 1941. Philadelphia, no mint mark. Denver, D. San Francisco, S. Together, they produced over 1.1 billion coins, making the regular 1941 penny quite common, but the rare error versions? Incredibly scarce and valuable. Moneybag Part 2, how much is a 1941 wheat penny worth today? Let's talk numbers. While the average 1941 penny is worth a few cents in circulated condition, the value skyrockets when white heavy checkmark the coin is in mint state, MS65 or higher. White heavy checkmark it has full red color instead of brown or red-brown. White heavy checkmark it contains rare mint errors or double dies. Here are typical values. Coin type condition estimated value 1941. No mint mark, MS65 RD $5 to $50 1941, DMS66 RD $100 to $500 1941, SMS67 RD $700 to $2,000 1941 double die AU/MS $5,000 to $50,000 plus 1941 off-metal error MS $10,000 to $100,000 plus. And yes, we're just getting started, because it's the error coins and rare grades that bring in the big bucks. Fire Part 3, the ultra-rare errors that make this penny worth thousands. If you want to strike gold with a 1941 penny, here are the rare versions to look out for. Fire 1. 1941 Double Die Obverse, DDO. One of the most valuable 1941 penny errors. You'll notice strong doubling on the date and the words, Liberty, and, In God We Trust. White heavy checkmark value in mint state, $5,000 to $30,000 plus white heavy checkmark $158 Australian dollars DDO example sold for $8,500 at auction. Fire 2. Off-metal strikes, wrong planchet. Some 1941 pennies were mistakenly struck on foreign coin blanks or on planchets intended for dimes or nickels. These coins are lighter or heavier than usual and often have unusual color. White heavy checkmark value, $15,000 to $100,000 plus white heavy checkmark 1 rare 1941 D penny struck on a dime planchet sold for over $35,000. Fire 3. Off-center strike. These coins are struck with the design off the center, sometimes even missing part of Lincoln's head or the date. White heavy checkmark value, $500 to $3,000 plus, depending on percent off-center and if the date is readable. Fire 4. Clipped planchet. Looks like a bite was taken out of the coin. These are fun and valuable errors. White heavy checkmark value, $250 to $2,000 plus. Fire 5. Die cracks and cuts. Cracks in the die leave raised lines or blobs on the coin. Large cuts, chunks of metal near the rim, are collectible. White heavy checkmark value, $100 to $1,500 plus. Part 5, how to spot a rare 1941 wheat penny. Here's how to check your 1941 penny for treasure. White heavy checkmark Step 1, check the mint mark. No mint mark equals Philadelphia. D equals Denver. S equals San Francisco. White heavy checkmark Step 2, examine the date and letters. Use a 10x magnifier to look for doubling on 1941, Liberty, and In God We Trust. White heavy checkmark Step 3, weigh the coin. Standard copper penny equals 3.11 grams. Wrong weight equals potential off-metal error. White heavy checkmark. Step 4. Look for obvious errors. Off-center strike. Clipped planchet. Die breaks, cracks or cuts. White heavy checkmark. Step 5. Grade and authenticate. If it's a high-grade coin or has a visible error, send it to PCGS or NGC for grading. Slabbed coins bring higher prices. Part 1. The birth of the Bicentennial Quarter. The 1976 Bicentennial Quarter wasn't just any coin, it was a piece of American celebration. Issued to commemorate 200 years of American independence, this quarter stood out from the standard Washington quarters by featuring a unique reverse design showing a colonial drummer and a victory torch encircled by 13 stars. A dual date, 1776 to 1976, on the obverse instead of a single year. And a special place in American history and numismatics. The Denver Mint produced these coins with a D mint mark, and while over 860 million were struck, only a tiny fraction carry the errors, varieties, or high-grade qualities that can command prices well beyond imagination. Classical Building Part 2, Why the 1976 D Bicentennial Quarter is so special. So what makes this coin so exciting? It was the first circulating U.S. coin to feature a commemorative design in over 50 years. It was struck in both clad and silver versions. It was included in mint sets, proof sets, and was also hoarded by collectors, making high-grade examples relatively common, but error coins and high-grade full-strike business strikes are rare. The Denver Mint made coins for circulation, but the few that were struck perfectly or struck in error are today's hidden treasures. Collision Part 3, The Rarest and Most Valuable 1976 D Quarter Errors. Here's where the real money lies. Let's dive into the rare errors and varieties that make the 1976 D Bicentennial Quarter worth hundreds to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Fire 1. Double die obverse, DDO, or reverse, DDR. Some coins were struck with double dies, causing clear doubling on the date, Liberty, In God We Trust, or on the drummer and torch. White heavy checkmark. Value range, $500 to $3,000 plus depending on clarity and grade. Fire 2. Off-metal errors, struck on wrong planchets. Extremely rare 1976 D quarters were struck on planchets meant for other coins, like Lincoln cents, copper, or nickels, copper-nickel. White heavy checkmark. Confirmed auction sale. One 1976 D quarter struck on a nickel planchet sold for over $7,000. Another struck on a copper cent planchet went for over $15,000. Fire 3. Clad layer missing. Coins missing the outer layer of metal appear copper-colored or dull gray. These are striking to the eye and very collectible. White heavy checkmark. Value, $250 to $1,500 depending on condition. Fire 4. Off-center strikes. Some quarters were struck off-center, making part of the design missing. If the date and mint mark are visible, these coins are highly prized. White heavy checkmark. Value, $200 to $5,000 plus. Fire 5. Full drum strike, MS67 plus grades. Coins with full details on the drummer's drum and sharp relief in both obverse and reverse often get high grades from PCGS or NGC. A PCGS MS67 plus 1976 D clad quarter once sold for over $6,000. White heavy checkmark. MS68 grades are incredibly rare. Only a handful exist. White heavy checkmark. Auction price, MS68 examples have sold for over $10,000 to $20,000. Fire 6. Silver-clad errors from Denver. Though most 40% silver bicentennial quarters were struck in San Francisco, some silver-clad planchets were mistakenly used in Denver. White heavy checkmark. One example graded by NGC sold for over $17,000 due to this mint error. Fire 7. Struck through errors. These happen when debris or fabric gets between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving strange indents or impressions. White heavy checkmark. Value, $500 to $2,000 plus. Chart increasing Part 4, Real Auction Sales of Rare 1976 D Bicentennial Quarters. Let's look at some real-world examples. Coin type grade/error auction value 1976, D MS68 clad quarter PCGS $21,000 1976, D on penny planchet MS65 RB $15,275 1976, D clad missing layer 58 Australian dollars $960 1976. D off-center 40% MS64 $3,250 1976, D silver-clad error MS67 $17,500 1976, D DDR variety MS66 $1,300. These are not fantasy prices, they're actual results from heritage auctions, Stax Bowers, and great collections. It shows just how insane the market can get for the right coin. Magnifying glass tilted left Part 5. How to spot a rare 1976 D Bicentennial quarter. Want to know if your quarter is a jackpot? White heavy checkmark. Look at the drum. Check for full lines and details. If it's sharp, it may qualify for a high-grade MS67 or MS68. White heavy checkmark. Check the edge and weight. If it looks silver or feels light, it might be on a silver planchet. Have it weighed. White heavy checkmark. Inspect for doubling. Use a magnifying glass on the date, lettering, and drummer's features. White heavy checkmark. Watch for off-center strikes or clipped edges. Irregular shapes or missing parts of the design could mean big bucks. White heavy checkmark. Send it for grading. Coins in pristine condition or with visible errors should be sent to PCGS or NGC for authentication and value boost.